Yo, what's good with y'all? Cubeatz back with another video for y'all. Today, you guys read the title. You guys want to get better at your dark synth samples, and you want to know what's the best VSTs to do that for. Well, in this video, I'm going to be breaking down the sample that I use this one contact bank and show you guys how I like to use it, why in my opinion it's one of the best contact banks for these dark synth samples. Let's get straight to it. Alright, so here's a quick preview of the sample. So I'm gonna break down the sample, very easy, very simple. This is the first layer I added. The sound I used for this first layer was this Tipsy at the ARP Walk preset from this Teletone bank right here. This is the bank that I'm talking about and that I really use for this whole video, this one right here. It's got instruments and then it has multis, which basically has multiple presets in one. As far as the actual melody, this is the melody I played out. Very, very simple. Now you would have thought maybe because there's so many notes it would have been a bunch of other notes and a more complex melody, but the preset is doing all the work. The chord I have on here is very, very simple. I first started with just this simple chord and I just took the B up an octave, and then at the end of the bar I added this C on top of the B. Having two notes playing right next to each other causes a lot of tension, and so it gives that dark feeling to the sample, and I just wanted to give it that vintage old sound. So for the effects, I just had this parametric EQ on here, cutting out a lot of the highs. If you guys seen any of my older videos, I told you that cutting out the highs is the easiest way to make something sound really old and vintage. Pancake giving it some movement, so it's panning hard left and hard right. And then Edison, what I did is I originally just recorded me playing this melody and then I paused it at the end so it would give out this like little fade out. I didn't want it to abruptly cut, and I really like how that sounded, so I took this into the playlist and I just chopped it up. So I added that little fade out at the end. Next, I wanted to layer a bass on here to cover some of the low ends and to really get a full understanding of where I wanted the sample to go. Now I'm really about to put y'all on sauce with this bass right here. So the preset I used is from the same bank, this tiny turbulence preset, and it has a lot of distortion to it. It's really dope bass, really gritty. Now you might want to know why this sounds a little different than the recording, and that is because I did this very simple trick I've been doing a lot in my samples, where I'll put it to a mixer track, I'll put a Edison on top, so I click record, and then while this is playing, it's picking it up, right? And what I'll do is while it's playing, I'll go into the actual effects and I'll be moving stuff around. So here you have this movement. And that's basically what I did. I just hit record and I moved some of these knobs around. That's why in the actual recording, you can hear the envelope of the filter like moving up and down. And then all I added was this chorus June stock preset on here. Now I added more layers throughout the sample, but first to get done with the first 8 bars, all I added after this, the main catchy melody, was the piano. So I wanted a real dark, haunting type of piano, so I wanted a wet type of preset, nothing very dry. I wanted something very ambient, so I selected this double, felt grand dark, and I made sure I enabled the reverb. And as far as the actual melody itself, what really gave it that dark, haunting feeling like I wanted was the bass notes. Having that low bass note that you guys know and have heard in tons of samples, I layered it with the C up an octave, and then throughout the sample, it was playing C, then B, C, then B. And like I said earlier, having two notes playing right next to each other causes a lot of tension and makes your sample sound really dark. And the last thing I added was a simple top melody, because obviously this is too simple, you know, it's kind of boring. So on top I added a top melody, just give it that catchiness. Now I did add a good amount of effects to give it that vintage type of sound, that old sound. I first always start with a compressor. I always compress my pianos, and I have this little piano room preset inside of here that I always use. I got this EQ right here, and I always use this wide piano stereo preset. This is basically raising some of the mids and lowering a little bit of the lows, and then sometimes I tweak with the highs, but for this one I just left the highs plain. I didn't want too many highs in it. I wanted it to be very dark and mellow. Valhalla Vintage Rare, we're just adding a little bit of reverb to it, giving it that nice ambient sound. And then lastly, this EQ, because the lower mids were pretty heavy, so I just lowered them a little bit. Now after that, I recorded it, rendered it out, and I did some chopping to it. So obviously the first thing I did is I pitched it up an octave, and then on here I think the effects I added was a EQ lowering some of these harsh frequencies, and then a M auto pitch auto tune, but I didn't use any auto tune. I instead used it for the format shifting. This is just lowering some of those highs again, and the last EQ lowering those lows. And as far as the chopping, I still had the original melody playing just like this. I like how that sounded, but I wanted to give it that like Cubeatz chop type of feel. So I literally just like cut parts of it off, and then over here, instead of cutting it off, I just used the volume, and this is controlling the volume of the whole sample. Now the final 3 layers I added for this whole sample was this contact bank again, and I used the triplet threat preset. And this is a very nice ambient preset. It had a lot of like weird effects on it. That's what I love about this bank. It has some of the most unique / like weird presets. And this whole recording is like very sloppy, and that's because I played this in on my MIDI keyboard. Next, I used the same preset in a second pattern. This one I had a more compact ARP playing. And yeah, it's a very simple ARP, just going down the scale and then back up, and it's repeating for the entire thing. For this one, I just lowered the lows and I raised the highs a tiny bit. Alright, so for this very last melody, I used the same preset again, the tipsy at the ARP walk. I don't know why I'm using this so much in this sample, but another very simple pattern, just like one note playing the whole time and changing it a little bit. And then the main effect I threw on here was auto chroma, and I used this low flutter preset on here. I really recommend using this preset if you do have auto chroma. Then just a little bit of other effects like chorus, and then compressor, EQ, just filtering out the highs. But the main effect is this auto chroma, and I'm gonna show you why. This is how it originally sounded. So I gave it this like weird filter, like wobbly type of synth. I exported that and I just chopped it up a tiny bit, and then I had the final melody for the sample. But that was pretty much it. That was all the melodies. As far as the master on here, I had it down 2 semitones, and sadly I did detune it. You guys know my addiction to detuning samples. I love doing it too much, bro. I don't recommend detuning it though, because a lot of producers complain. Anyways, I just EQ'd it, cleaned it up a tiny bit, soft clipper making it louder, my classic master chain. I don't really do much, and then I just exported that, and this is the whole final sample. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you guys did enjoy and learn something new, if you guys want any of my sound kits to elevate your sounds, with the first link in the description below. I got a lot of sales going on right now. And yeah, if you guys did enjoy and learn something new, and I'll see you guys in the next video.